Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Friends, welcome to the Encounter program sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches. I'm your host, Mark Kimpland. I'm the pastor at the Endwell United Methodist Church. I'm a sucker for success stories, and I love it when people or organizations have a dream, a vision, a mission, a purpose, and then work hard to make that purpose a reality. And this is what our show is all about today, because we have such a story right here in this community. Today we're going to be talking about the Mercy House of the Southern Tier. And I have along with us today Linda Cerra, who is the Executive Director of the Mercy House, and Lomonaco, who is the Volunteer Coordinator. And I want to welcome both of you to the Encounter program.
Thank you for
I'm
having
glad you were
us.
here.
Yes.
Good to be here.
I'm excited about this. I love success stories, things that come together by God's will and it gets played out in a positive form and fashion. But I'd like to start maybe a bit earlier to talk about maybe some history, what's brought us to this time. So I'd like to just kind of throw that out to you as a launching point in our time together. Can you give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of background about the history? Because you certainly didn't open the doors 20 plus months ago and said, here we are. Much work, blood, sweat, and tears went into that. So can you kind of just share with us a little bit of the historical background to the Mercy House?
Sure. This goes back almost 5-6 years, and it was a vision of Father Clarence Rumbles, where he had an experience with ill family members in Syracuse that he, with his full-time job as a pastor, as you know, and with the family members being out of town, to provide care for them. So he found Francis House in Syracuse, New York. So Mercy House was modeled after Francis House. So it was his vision to take that model and bring it to the Southern Tier community so that we could provide that same service for here. So that's really where the vision came from, Father Clarence Rumble. From there, he put together strategy committees and did all the due diligence research in the community to see if this really would be something that was feasible and, hey, can we really do this and give back and be the difference in the Southern Tier? So lo and behold, yes, there was a need for it, which we certainly have found out, and we purchased St. Casimir's Church in 2014, and that was renovated into Mercy House, a 10-bed facility. And we did open our doors on March 1st, 2016. So it's been quite a few years of a journey that has come to fruition, and here we are today.
I could only imagine the meetings, the preparation, the due diligence, the demographic studies, all of that, I'm sure we're all a part of bringing us to this point.
Many committees, a lot of people just giving it their all, volunteer time, right? So after the day job, attending meetings and just working towards this goal.
And you have been, now the Mercy House of the Southern Tier now has been open for
22 months.
For 22 months.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
With at least that much preparation on the front side of all of that. So what can you tell our listeners and viewers, what exactly is the mission, the purpose, the focus of the Mercy House? Because I'm out and about in town and people mention it.
Yes.
Some are familiar with exactly what it is, and others have a different understanding as to what it is. So can you kind of clearly state for us its mission and vision?
Sure. So our mission is to care for those terminally ill members of our community. At Mercy House, we are a non-denominational community care shelter, and we provide 24/7 service for those who are terminally ill. We work exclusively with Lourdes Hospice, so it's a partnership there in helping to find those residents who come to us that are most in need, and we take care of them as they transition on.
So Lourdes then will contact you, or how does that relationship work with Lourdes Hospital?
Sure. So Lourdes will have patients that enter into hospice. So those that are most in need will get a call at Mercy House. And our Director of Resident Care, Amy Roma, works with them all day long, every day, in getting those folks to Mercy House. We do receive a lot of calls from family and friends. So what we tell them is to be admitted to Mercy House, number one, you have to be a hospice referral through Lourdes. And you also have to have a DNR, a Do Not Resuscitate order signed. And then from there, you go on our list and we take those most in need based upon the available beds that we have at Mercy House. So that's how that works. So the community can call Mercy House, but we will tell them, please call Lourdes, get that referral.
Okay.
And then Lourdes calls us right away. And so that's how we work in tandem.
Okay. And I'm sure many of our listeners and viewers and such things now have lots of questions because there's people that they know or that are intimately a part of their families or communities that this may fit exactly what they're looking for. So what's the structure then? How does this actually, from Lourdes and that referral, what's the structure of the Mercy House? How does this all get done? Who does what? What are the moving parts to the Mercy House?
So we have our partner, Lourdes Hospice. So at Mercy House, our staff is comprised of 21 employees. So we have 8 full-time employees, so 3 administrative, 5 full-time resident care aides who are actually on the floor caring for the residents, along with Lourdes Hospice nurses and aides that come in daily. So it's a team effort there. And then we also have 13 part-time folks, which includes part-time resident care aides. We have a part-time Sister Joanna Monticello, who is our social worker there. We have a part-time menu planner. So that is really our core team. But really, and this is where Ann will talk a lot about this, we're very proud of our volunteers and all the time and effort they spend to make this a success. So not only do we have our resident care aides on the floor for the residents 24/7, we have 246 active volunteers.
That's awesome.
And we can't do it without either. So that's where Ann comes in and she coordinates the volunteers and makes sure that we have what we need for the residents and also engages with the volunteers.
Well, let's shift our thoughts then to that. I remember, probably a year and a half ago, Sister Joanna coming to our congregation at the Endwell United Methodist Church just prior to the launch, as a matter of fact, and people were jazzed up. They were excited about what was happening because they wanted to see themselves in the picture. Not just having the information, the knowledge about the Mercy House, but what can I do to help?
Right.
So how does that process work out, Ann, with the volunteers? How do you screen them? What kind of process, if someone is listening or watching this show, how might they become a part of that?
Great. The interesting number, overwhelming, not only the volunteers that we have on board, but I was at a conference and was asked if we looked at our schedule, how many volunteers do we need a week to successfully run Mercy House? And it's 164. If you take the shifts that we have from administrative clerical to kitchen staff to companions, caregivers, and we can't forget housekeeping because we do that too. It's 100 equals 164. So it's amazing. How volunteers get involved is we have simple paper application at Mercy House, or we can drive viewers and listeners to our website, and there's a specific web page for volunteers, and they can, thank goodness for the electronic age, they can fill out an application online, and then I automatically get that. And then there is volunteer orientation. We have a volunteer orientation once a month. And so we just finished January's, February's will be coming up. And then depending on what role or roles people are interested in, there's some extra training for that as well. Amy Roma does a caregiver companion class separate to the general orientation. And then for those volunteers that want to help out in the kitchen, We actually put them right in the kitchen for a breakfast, lunch,
Here
or
you
dinner
are.
session and get
Yes.
some hands-on training and get to know the other volunteers and the other staff as well.
Sure. Are there other areas that people can volunteer? What are certain areas that people might be able to volunteer in?
Yep. Well, of course, we have the kitchen, and then people ask what's the difference between caregiver and companion. Caregiver, if you think of more hands-on, don't necessarily have to have a nursing medical background, but more comfortable with handling our residents. Companion, I always say, is the kind of the essence of Mercy House, simply sitting with our residents. We've had, residents with us that like to watch sports, just like to listen to music, like to have scripture read, poems read, and sometimes it's just simply the volunteer is reading something and the resident is sleeping.
Yes.
And so it's just that sense of presence that Mercy House really stands by. Housekeeping, like I said, we all pitch in. The recyclables have to be taken out. The salt has to be swept up from the sidewalk, the walkways, the entranceways.
Light bulbs change.
Light bulbs
Yeah, yeah,
change.
yeah.
Yeah.
House stuff.
Exactly. House stuff. Exactly.
Right,
Yeah. And then we do have some administrative clerical jobs as well. And I think that's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, I'm joined today with Linda Cerra, who's the Executive Director of the Mercy House of the Southern Tier, and Ann Lomonaco, who is the Volunteer Coordinator. And we're talking about these volunteers. I'm just blown away with the number of people that have really stepped forward. And it sounds like people are continuing to do so. Am I correct in that assessment? That
Yeah, the
people are-
recent orientation we had 2 weeks ago, we had 12 new volunteers.
That's
and all
wonderful.
different walks of life. I mean, we had a high school student, junior high, senior high will take, interested in, pre-med, and figures she wants to try to see what geriatrics is about, and her dad knew about us. So, I mean, just neat. And then she wasn't in this most recent class, but our youngest at heart volunteers, an 89-year-old retired nurse, and dedicated, unbelievable, and just, it's interesting because I find with volunteers that we're not only filling a need with our residents, but the volunteers get back tenfold
Absolutely.
what they give.
Yes. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when it comes to the volunteers, background checks, are there other things that need to, T's crossed, I's dotted kind of
Exactly.
thing?
Yep.
Are there things that need to happen?
We do a background check on all volunteers, and then we do ask for 2 references for our volunteers.
Okay. Now, how are, let's talk about the residents and such things and all of that. I've often wondered this. Let's say that residents don't have family. They don't have someone that's near and dear. I'm sure that raises some, different issues and different things that have to happen. How do you care for them? How is it that they're brought into the fold and such things if there is no one right there for them to be their advocate or their help?
Right, that's a great question. We have seen and we have cared for folks that come in and either one, don't have any family members. Some have maybe just a friend or two. And then we have residents that have family, but they're out of state, out of the area.
Yeah.
And then we have some that are local, that have local family, but they just simply can't be the caregiver any longer at home. So we find with, sometimes the elderly spouses, right? Perhaps neither one is in the greatest of health, and they just can't provide that care at home. So then they would, come to Mercy House. Again, those most critical in need come in first. So one of our missions is that nobody will be left alone. So that's why we have 24/7 coverage with our resident care aides and the companions. Bless those that can work, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
sit in the rooms with those folks that don't have family or friends. So we've seen all of that in the past 22 months.
Yeah. Oh, what a blessing. What a blessing that is. Let's talk maybe a little bit about the elephant in the room. How is this funded?
That is the big elephant in the room. Yeah, that's right on our plate.
How is that handled? How do
Right.
people take care of that?
So we, and this goes back, 3-4 years now. where we rely solely on the community. And it's been overwhelming that they have embraced this mission. Just unbelievable. So we rely on the community for monetary and non-monetary donations. We have fundraisers.
Okay.
So we have two large ones each year. In October, we have what's called the Gala of Taste. And then in June, we have our annual golf tournament at Enjoy, which is coming up soon.
Yes.
So we want everybody to save the date, Saturday, June 2nd. And we've been fortunate that, you know, the gala's been sold out, the golf tournament, the teams. We have 2 flights, so
Great.
put that on the calendar so you're not turned away. But so we rely on that. I also do a lot of grant writing, and so we rely on the grants, but just really the generosity of the community, because we are not eligible as a community care shelter for any state or federal government funding. So here we are. So,
Yes, yeah. Now, where does or does not insurance fit into all of this? Or personal payments from families or people that are a part of that Mercy House? Is that
Right.
a piece of the puzzle also, or not?
It is. So we do not bill, as a community care shelter, we do not bill for insurance. We rely, again, solely on donations from the community. But when the residents come in, we do speak with them and the families and let them know that the cost for us to care for a resident is approximately $1,500 a week. So we let them know that. So if there's a way that they could financially contribute, you know, whether it's $50 or $100, and if they can't, that's okay. That's why we fundraise 24/7.
Yeah.
So some families are able to pay a little bit towards the $1,500.
Okay.
Some can't at all, you know. So it's a mix. But I can tell you, 30% of the residents that have come through Mercy House, and as of the state today, we have cared for 185 residents,
Okay.
and about 30% of those 185 were able to, you know, provide some type of
Okay.
support
Okay.
towards that, you know, care fee.
Right.
So, but
right.
we do not turn anybody away. Again, it's those most critical in need, and the financial piece is whatever they can do. And if they can't, again, that's okay.
Okay. Now, what about waiting lists, time, the amount of time that perhaps people are at Mercy House and such things? Can you just share a little bit about that, what you found in the last 20-plus months?
Right. So amazing that we have a waiting list every week. And so, again, our Director of Resident Care, Amy Roma, you know, she works with Lourdes Hospice closely every day, like I said, 24/7. It seems like. So we have, on average, at least 8 per week that are waiting to get into Mercy House.
Okay.
Once they come into Mercy House, the average length of stay right now is approximately 27 days. And that's the average. You know, some folks come in and they might be with us for a day. It might be 2 weeks. And then we've also had some that have been with us for a few months. So, you know, you just never know.
Yes.
You never know.
Absolutely.
We don't control that.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Now, is there a plan for the Mercy House to become financially sustainable and to continue this? Is there a plan in place, knowing that we don't know